She's back. It's the USS Enterprise NC 107D. Yeah. So that was the penultimate episode of SquishiVision. Yeah. This one more review. I'm done. No, that was the penultimate episode of Star Trek Picard. Called well. Okay, I have a Latin GCSE. Pronunciation of the title of this episode is Vox. Everyone says Vox, but you know, in Latin the V letter is pronounced with a W sound, so this is Vox, and I will not be deviating from that. I don't care. This is Vox, and yeah, a whole bunch of things happened, but they. I don't say finally deliver nostalgia, because I don't think that should be the obligatory destination of Picard as a whole. But this season has been about bringing the crew back together, and at that point it was kind of something like this was probably expected. I mean, to be fair, I wasn't actually sure they were going to go this whole way, but I guess in hindsight there was another way it was going to go. So they contrived a reason that the Enterprise D is back because it was one of the Enterprises that was destroyed, rather than bring back the Enterprise E, which was not destroyed. But I mean, I guess it's obvious why, because Enterprise E was only in the films, and for a reunion thing, the Enterprise. Also, I realised I'm wearing my Star Wars Celebration top during this Star Trek review. I should have probably put my staff uniform. Whoops. I'll wear it next week. But yeah. So, where was I speaking? Yeah, I mean, so yeah, they contrive not only do they contrive a reason that the Enterprise D is back. Basically, they were forced to recover the saucer section because of the Prime Directive, which I guess actually makes sense. And then they just put on some other ships, criminally identical star drive section, and you get the Enterprise D back. And they also make an excuse for the Enterprise E having been ended somehow because of war somehow, and we will not elaborate on that. But to be honest, the shot of them, I also like how they go into the Enterprise D bridge and it's more brightly lit than anything else in this season. There's an ongoing joke about how Star Trek is much darker, and I don't actually particularly mind. I mean, I can see everything clearly on my screen, so I don't know what the issue is for most people. Maybe see just TV settings, but I was amused by how comparatively more brightly lit that ending part was. Not hugely, it's not back to like Next Generation quality, but to be fair, it looks more like actually how the Enterprise D was lit on Star Trek Generations, which I guess makes sense because it's kind of middle ground. But yeah, so often what happens in I find TV shows is when the penultimate or the pre-penultimate episode resolves a lot of the plot, but not the arc of the season. You often then have to like introduce brand new concepts to kind of push the episode across to the season across the finish line. Last week really concluded the whole Vadic arc, which was the driving antagonism of the season. But obviously we hadn't answered what was wrong with Jack, we hadn't answered what the conspiracy was, etc, etc. And basically kind of introduced a whole bunch of new concepts in the form of the Borg being the antagonistic force. Basically out of nowhere. There's not been built up, I don't think, in any significant way, other than obviously the Next Generation and Picard's own, the Enterprise D and Picard's own connection with the Borg. But other than that, there's like no real other connection there. So it is a bit contrived. But essentially, what they realise is there's a lot of things that are contrived in this episode, and I'm not sure or convinced that they should have done that rather than something else was basically threaded along. It now seems like the whole changing threat's been really forgotten, disregarded, and insignificant. But so apparently, I can accept that when the Borg assimilate you, they change parts of your genome and you're irreversibly to a degree Borg because part of your genetics has changed. It's established that even those who've escaped simulation, or even those who become ex-Borgs, they are reliant to a degree on Borg technology, depending on how long they've been assimilated for the rest of their lives. So people like Q and Seven still need implants to survive, because otherwise they'll die because things have been irretrievably changed. So I can accept that the genetic makeup has been somewhat changed, but they've established here that they did something new with Picard, and essentially they've added this kind of organic assimilation where it uses no tech, and that has kind of existed in him, and kind of caused iridomic syndrome like symptoms to emerge and to kill his original body. But this has now been transferred over to Jack and has now made him, I guess, part Borg organically, which is, I can accept. It doesn't break anything for me. It just seems late stage lore adding for the sake of a finale. He is upset by this and decides he's going to basically play straight into the hands and fly up to the Borg. So yeah, he kind of leaves and immediately gets captured, and I don't know how he felt it was any other way. Meanwhile, they basically realised that I mean, to be fair, this isn't like inconsistent with Star Trek technology, but you can apparently use a transport to rewrite someone's genetic makeup, which I guess makes sense, as far as I think Star Trek makes sense, but only because of it only really gets accepted by a body that's pre-development, so everyone's human in about 25. So all the younger members of the crew now have this innate Borgness to them that they can now all be commandeered by the Borg and turned into like drones, which actually, to be fair, is quite scary as a concept, but it's also very dramatic. Like, I know the whole conspiracy takeover of Starfleet is quite dramatic in the first place, and that's fair, that's dramatic enough, but then be like, and also every single member of the fleet who's in the 25 is now a Borg, and it's like, it's gone up to like, it was at 11, now it's gone up to like 15, and then this late stage, it's sort of an arbitrary escalation. Not that it doesn't work, but it's like kind of endgame escalation I expect to see in a film, because of the way film is paced uniquely. That's not the case with TV. Whereas with TV, you expect a slower, more progressive burn to your escalations. That's just what I feel. And I feel like it wasn't really obeyed here. I'm not saying that's not to work. I think it's all going to rely on how it resolves next week. But when you get, when you escalate this far in a penultimate episode, it's like, well, then you have to kind of handbrake end next episode. And I don't for one second believe we're going to end on a particularly downer note, considering the whole point of this season has been to rely a lot on the nostalgia of Star Trek. It seems odd if they're going to end on a particularly downer note. So it's kind of like, well, I don't know if I'm going to be really fulfilled or satisfied with this, but we'll see how it goes. Speaking of things that don't leave me fulfilled or satisfied, Shaw's ending is predictable. Like, as in, like, everyone has predicted at this point that this, but that doesn't, we're basically, everyone has been predicting, basically, I think, since his second episode, he is going to do two things. He's going to call 709 by her preferred name, and he will then die. And that's exactly what happens in this episode. And again, that's not necessarily problematic. You can do that. You can have your characters end in very obvious ways, because sometimes supporting casts have to be archetypes. It's not their show. They don't need to subvert expectations. But you should subvert expectations in the execution. And I feel like it was almost as if the writers were like, well, this is obviously what's going to happen to his character, so let's not dilly-dally on it. But I feel like it does a disservice to Shaw's character, who is actually quite a nuanced and subverting character. He's not a bigot for the sake of hatred. It's honestly, the concept depicting someone who is bigoted because of legitimate trauma is such a complex and nuanced topic to explore that honestly it could be the foundations of a show in itself. And the fact that it tackles this and it does so in a way which I don't think is entirely disrespectful and actually done fairly well, was one of my favourite parts of this season. And so for him to end in a very much play by numbers point, to the point where it was really brushed over, like literally it was like shot, name, dead, without any kind of real homage or dignity towards, not dignity is the wrong word, but like sometimes you want to play up sometimes a moment deserves to be played up, and this was a moment that deserved to be played up and it wasn't played up, and I'm like, that's kind of disappointing for such like a really well executed character. Like, I feel like compare his death, spoiler alert for the Mandalorian, compare his death with Paz Vizslá's death 2 days ago. Yesterday. Oh, well, I watched it yesterday. Compare their deaths, where Paz Vizsla is kind of a similar kind of character. He's the antagonistic, but actually legitimately so, but still on the same side figure in across Mandalorian, and like he probably appears in as much of the Mandalorian as this character appeared in Search of Picard, but this character is just a season 3 character, while Paz Vizsla's been in 2 seasons of Mandalorian and parts of Book of Boba Fett, and his death was like given prominence. It was not, and to be fair, that episode I guess was paced differently, but it was given more prominence. And I feel like that should have been, that's what Shaw deserved, and a bit no matter how rushed it was. Similarly, the Boback Shelby, who is a significant guest character in the Next Generation, she appears in The Best of Both Worlds as a really like interesting character, because she was basically, you know, in the episode, which even on a meta level we weren't sure if Patrick Stewart would come back to the show. I say we as if I was there when it happened, but you know, from a meta level they weren't sure if Patrick Stewart was going back to the show. So this was very much
motion detected at the front door.
Alexa, volume 10. Alexa, volume 0. They weren't sure if Patrick Stewart was going to come back to the show, so they were kind of threading in the concept that Will Riker was going to become the captain of the Enterprise, and obviously Will Riker's whole arc in this respect is, does he feel ready for command, or does he feel he has more to learn? Like that's his whole deal. It's consistent throughout the show. There's several moments where he gets offered promotion, he turns it down, and this is the kind of this is a culmination of that. And I'm not sure it actually gets addressed again after that until we reach Nemesis, where he finally does take that promotion, the Titan. So, and Shelby in that episode basically represents, I don't know, Riker, if Riker was thoroughly career driven and ambitious, and she's very much she's what you want in a good character. She challenges the core view aspect of a lead character, and she's written very well. And you know, she's also written with a degree of nuance. Like, she has this very ambitious, driven persona which causes a butt heads with Riker, but then as soon as Picard's out the picture and Riker's actually her commanding officer, she's now less sure of herself. Riker's having to like put more trust in this person who is trying to undermine him, but he's got no choice, and she kind of has to like balance the fact that she has an ambition, but she also realizes the context of the situation. She's written very well. She appeared and she gets brought back, and I'm like, oh, that's great, this is a really good character. And she literally has she does a good scene where she's basically the face of one of the faces of Frontier Day. I'm like, that seems very deserved. And then she basically gets very abruptly killed, as if she was an insignificant character. And like, compared this to say Ro Laren's appearance early in the season, who has an entire, and I'm not saying that Shelby needed that level of prominence. Not, you know, you can't bring back all these characters, but it just seems, I don't know, I feel cheated. I feel like she got cheated out here. I feel like it could have. I don't feel even needed to show her death. They didn't raise the stakes for me. It felt cheap. That was the issue. I feel like they could have shown her and left it ambiguous, and that would have raised the stakes for me more than we. I mean, to be fair, we're not entirely sure she's dead, although I think it's strongly implied that she is, because she could took 2 phaser blasts point blank to the chest, which was more than Shaw got. He got killed. But you know, that's not rush. But those are like, I'm being very negative in this reaction, and I think I'm concerned. But there's other positives. I mean, it was great to see the Enterprise D again. I do think the whole Starfleet being taken over is quite a terrifying prospect if it's over dramatized. Seeing everyone work together was a joy to watch. So yeah, I think we're at. I think this season is now very reliant, and it can go either way in the finale. And next week's episode has a lot of pressure on it. Not only is it the finale of season 3 of Picard, not only is it the finale of Picard as a whole, it is and I know Nemesis was meant to be this, but I think this is even more confidently so the final hurrah for these cast members together. Like, it's unlikely we're going to do this again. Like, I don't think there's going to be like a third. This is their encore. I don't think there's going to be an encore to the encore. So it's where we go with this. And part of me is concerned. I think this has done the same thing that WandaVision did, where the penultimate episode resolves a lot of mystery of the previous season, and then but then introduces new conflicts just so we have a final episode. This essentially reveals a lot of the conflict, but also asks more questions about the previous season. I'm like, well, next episode, I don't feel like the stakes have been continuous. These are now new stakes. Season is like kind of a fanfare kind of deal, but I guess we'll just wait until next week. What did you think of this episode of Picard? Are you as miffed as I am that they pronounced Vox as Vox, or am I just a big Latin nerd? And how are you feeling about next week? Let us know in the comments below. And yeah, I'm gonna go because I've got a trip to London in 5 hours. I need to work out if I can fit my suit into my bag. So I'm gonna go do that. Cheerio.